My name Arya Thompson, a 32-year-old finance prodigy, stands at the pinnacle of professional success, having risen to become the youngest senior investment strategist at Goldman Sachs, from sleeping on a friend's couch in New York City to securing her dream Manhattan apartment. Her journey is a testament to relentless determination and talent. Yet, beneath this polished exterior lies a deeper struggle, a lifelong quest for approval from a father who has never deemed her enough. The annual Matthews family reunion, a glittering facade of unity held at their affluent Boston estate, becomes the stage for a reckoning that will unravel decades of buried truths and redefine Arya's understanding of family, worth, and identity. Her story is one of resilience, revelation, and the courage to reclaim one's power from those who withhold love. Growing up in a wealthy Boston suburb, Arya was part of a family that appeared picture-perfect to outsiders. Her father, Richard Matthews, a real estate tycoon, built a multi-million-dollar empire from modest beginnings, prioritizing success, status, and respect above all else. To him, family was an extension of his legacy, a reflection of his achievements rather than a source of emotional connection. Richard's critical eye shaped Eliza's childhood, dismissing her B-plus grades as failures, questioning her lack of leadership roles, and branding second place as the first loser. This relentless scrutiny left Eliza striving to meet standards that seemed to shift just out of reach. Her achievements, graduating top of her high school class, earning a full scholarship to Cornell, and forging a stellar career, never enough to earn his pride. Arya's mother, Carolyn, offered warmth in private but shrank under Richard's domineering presence, rarely challenging his harsh judgments. Her siblings navigated this dynamic differently. James, the eldest, was the golden child, effortlessly aligning with Richard's vision through his football stardom and real estate career. Sophia, the youngest, wielded charm and emotional intelligence to soften their father's moods, acting as the family's peacemaker. Eliza, however, felt like an outsider. Her efforts to please Richard met with skepticism or outright dismissal. When she chose Cornell over his alma mater, he saw it as defiance. When she built a career in finance without his connections, he questioned its legitimacy. This pattern of rejection drove Arya to a desperate act, purchasing a Mercedes E-Class for Father's Day, hoping the lavish gift would finally win his approval. The reunion coinciding with Father's Day amplifies these tensions. Eliza arrives with the DNA test results in her purse, a secret confirming Richard is not her biological father, a truth that explains his coldness but threatens to upend the family's carefully curated image. As Richard showcases the Mercedes to his business associates without crediting her, and later publicly labels her a loser while praising her siblings, the stage is set for a confrontation. What follows is not just a clash over a car or a title, but a seismic shift in Arya's understanding of her place in the world. Her story unfolds as a powerful exploration of breaking free from toxic expectations, confronting painful truths, and redefining family not by blood, but by those who offer unconditional love. This narrative invites readers to reflect on their own battles for validation and the courage it takes to walk away from those who diminish their worth. Arya's journey from a child chasing approval to a woman claiming her power resonates as a universal call to prioritize self-worth over external judgment. As she navigates the fallout of her revelation, reconnects with her mother and sister, and builds a cautious bond with her biological father, Arya discovers that true family is forged through mutual respect and authenticity. Her story is a beacon for anyone who has felt unseen, urging them to stand up, reclaim their narrative, and build a life rooted in self-acceptance. What follows is a tale of heartbreak, liberation, and the quiet triumph of choosing oneself over a legacy that never truly belonged to her. Has carved out a remarkable career at Goldman Sachs, yet she has never felt adequate in the eyes of her father, Richard Matthews. Driven by ambition and a need to prove herself, Eliza built her success from the ground up in New York City. Starting with nothing but 2 suitcases and determination, she slept on a friend's couch while tirelessly applying to financial firms. Her perseverance paid off with an entry-level position at Goldman Sachs, where she worked her way up over 8 years to become the youngest senior investment strategist in the firm's history. This promotion brought a substantial salary increase, enabling her to purchase her dream Manhattan apartment and still maintain significant savings. Despite these achievements, graduating at the top of her high school class, securing a full academic scholarship to Cornell, and outperforming market expectations with her innovative risk assessment model, Eliza has always been haunted by her father's unrelenting, Criticism. The Matthews family, residing in an affluent Boston suburb, projects an image of perfection to outsiders, but beneath the surface lies a complex and strained dynamic. Richard Matthews, a driven real estate developer, transformed his modest company into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. For him, success, status, and respect trump all else, often at the expense of family bonds. He was never the father who attended school plays or helped with homework. Instead, he was a harsh critic, pointing out that Eliza's B-plus grades should have been A's, questioning why she wasn't team captain, or dismissing second place as the first loser. This relentless scrutiny shaped Eliza's childhood, leaving her constantly striving to meet his impossible standards. Aria's mother, Caroline, offered a stark contrast to Richard's cold demeanor. Warm and affectionate when alone with her children, she became subdued in her husband's presence, never challenging his authority or defending her children from his biting critiques. Eliza later recognized this as a strange power dynamic, where Caroline's deference to Richard stifled her ability to protect her children. This dynamic left a lasting impression on Eliza, who only understood its full weight as an adult. Within the family structure, Eliza's siblings navigated their father's expectations with varying success. Her older brother, James, 3 years her senior, was the undisputed golden child. A former football star, honor roll student, and now a successful figure in their father's real estate business, James effortlessly aligned with Richard's vision of success. He attended their father's alma mater, dated women from approved families, and seemed to intuitively grasp what would earn Richard's approval, something Aria could never master. Her younger sister, Sophia, 2 years her junior, was less of an overachiever but possessed a natural charm and emotional intelligence. As the family's peacemaker, Sophia could diffuse Richard's darker moods, occasionally coaxing a rare laugh from him. She would comfort Aria after particularly harsh criticism, reassuring her that their father's words weren't as severe as they seemed, though this offered little solace. Aria's achievements, while objectively impressive, were consistently undermined by her father. When she chose Cornell over his alma mater, he saw it as a rejection of his legacy. During college, despite working 2 part-time jobs while maintaining a high GPA, Richard questioned why she wasn't interning at more prestigious firms. When she declined his offer to join his company, knowing it would be a pity hire, and instead forged her own path in finance, his response was dismissive. "Let's see if you last a month." Even her groundbreaking promotion at Goldman Sachs was met with skepticism, with Richard suggesting it might be due to a gender quota or mere luck. This pattern of dismissal fueled Eliza's determination, but it also revealed a deeper truth. Her accomplishments were not just for herself, but were desperate attempts to win the approval of a father who seemed incapable of giving it. The annual Matthews family reunion, coinciding with Father's Day, amplified these tensions. In a bid to finally earn her father's pride, Aria used her savings to purchase a luxurious Mercedes E-Class for him, a grand gesture she hoped would bridge the emotional gap between them. This act, costing nearly a year's salary, reflected her lifelong quest for validation, a pursuit that shaped her decisions and underscored the complex interplay of love, expectation, and rejection within the Matthews family. Aria Thompson, despite her remarkable achievements in finance, lived under the constant shadow of her father Richard Matthews' disapproval. From childhood, Richard's exacting standards shaped her life with unrelenting criticism. A B-plus grade was deemed inadequate when it should have been an A. Her failure to secure a team captain role was questioned, and any achievement short of first place was dismissed as the first loser. This harsh scrutiny persisted into adulthood, with Richard undermining her accomplishments at every turn. When Eliza chose Cornell over his alma mater, he viewed it as a rejection of his legacy. Her decision to forge her own path in finance, declining his offer to join his real estate company, was met with skepticism. "Let's see if you last a month." Even her promotion to senior investment strategist at Goldman Sachs, a historic milestone as the youngest person in the role, was trivialized, with Richard suggesting it stemmed from luck or a gender quota rather than merit. This pattern of dismissal fueled Eliza's drive to succeed, but it also deepened a wound that no professional triumph could heal. Her accomplishments, graduating top of her high school class, earning a full scholarship to Cornell, and developing a risk assessment model adopted company-wide at Goldman Sachs, were never enough to earn Richard's pride. Each milestone was met with a critique that reframed her success as insufficient or dependent on external factors. leaving Eliza in a perpetual state of striving for an approval that seemed perpetually out of reach. This dynamic defined their relationship, with Richard's coldness contrasting sharply with the warmth he showed his other children, James and Sophia. In a desperate bid to bridge this emotional chasm, Eliza decided to make a grand gesture for Father's Day, coinciding with the annual Matthews family reunion. Using her substantial savings from her recent promotion, she purchased a sleek black Mercedes E-Class, a luxury car costing nearly a year's salary. She meticulously planned the gift, knowing Richard had once admired a similar model at a country club friend's home. Eliza hoped this extravagant offering would finally prompt the words of pride she had chased for 32 years. The car, with its premium features and gleaming exterior, symbolized more than a lavish gift. It was an attempt to buy the unconditional love every child craves from a parent. Reflecting on this decision later, Eliza recognized the pathos in her need for validation, seeing how it had shaped her life's major choices, from her career path to her relentless pursuit of excellence. The lead-up to the reunion intensified Eliza's anxiety. She spent weeks preparing, selecting a navy blue tailored dress from a designer her mother noted Richard respected, paired with subtle gold jewelry and expensive but understated shoes. This careful curation reflected her lifelong pattern of trying to meet her father's contradictory expectations, successful yet not ostentatious, feminine yet professional. Past reunions haunted her as she packed. At 16, her state math competition win was overshadowed by Richard's critique of her focus on numbers over debate skills. Her summa cum laude graduation from Cornell was dismissed as unstable compared to real estate. And her first major bonus at Goldman Sachs prompted questions about whether finance was merely glorified gambling. Each memory reinforced the futility of her efforts to please him. Aria arranged for the Mercedes to be delivered to a dealership near her parents' Boston home, timing the presentation for a private moment when her mother was at a garden club meeting. When she handed Richard the key, his initial shock gave way to a fleeting moment of pleasure, but this quickly dissolved into his usual analytical demeanor. "This is excessive, Eliza. What are you trying to prove?" he asked, interrogating her about financing and insurance rather than expressing gratitude. After a brief test drive, he parked the car in the garage, away from view, and offered a perfunctory thanks tinged with a jab about her wasting money. This cold reception left Eliza grappling with disappointment, yet she clung to a fragile hope that the reunion itself might bring the acknowledgement she sought. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal not only the depth of their strained relationship, but also a truth that would redefine her place in the Matthews family. 3 months before the Matthews family reunion, Eliza Matthews stumbled upon a life-altering revelation that reshaped her understanding of her place in her family. Out of curiosity about her ancestry, she had used a popular genetic testing service, expecting to uncover distant heritage or ethnic roots. Instead, the results delivered a bombshell. Her genetic markers did not align with those expected of Richard Matthews' biological daughter. The initial shock was disorienting, as if the foundation of her identity had cracked. To confirm the staggering finding, Eliza quietly pursued a more definitive test, discreetly obtaining DNA samples from her father's hairbrush during a brief visit to her parents' Boston home. The results were conclusive, confirming that Richard was not her biological father. She sealed these findings in an envelope, a tangible symbol of a truth she wasn't yet sure how to confront, carrying it in her purse like a loaded weapon she might or might not use. This discovery cast a new light on the lifelong coldness Eliza had endured from Richard. Unlike her siblings, James and Sophia, who received at least a baseline of paternal affection, Eliza had always felt like an outsider in her own family. Richard's relentless criticism, dismissing her academic achievements, questioning her career choices, and undermining her professional milestones had always seemed disproportionate compared to his treatment of her siblings. The DNA results offered a painful but clarifying explanation. Richard's harshness wasn't just about high expectations or favoritism. It likely stemmed from his knowledge or suspicion that Eliza was not his biological child. She began to suspect he had known this truth for years, perhaps from the moment she was born, and that this knowledge had colored every interaction, turning his parenting into a form of punishment for a reality she had no control over. The revelation explained subtle differences that had always nagged at Eliza. Physically, she didn't quite mirror the Matthews family traits that James and Sophia shared with Richard: the sharp jawline, The distinct posture, the effortless alignment with his values. Her features, her questioning nature, even her drive to carve her own path in finance rather than follow Richard's real estate empire, had always set her apart. These differences, once dismissed as quirks, now felt like evidence of her genetic otherness. The emotional distance Richard maintained, his refusal to celebrate her successes such as graduating top of her class, securing a full scholarship to Cornell, or becoming Goldman Sachs' youngest senior investment strategist, suddenly made sense. His coldness wasn't about her failures, but about a truth he had never acknowledged aloud. Arya grappled with the weight of this secret as the family reunion approached. The envelope in her purse became a nuclear option, a potential tool for confrontation she hadn't fully decided to deploy. Part of her wanted to demand answers, to force Richard to admit why he had treated her as less than his other children. Yet another part feared the fallout disrupting the fragile family dynamic, hurting her mother, Carolyn, or alienating her siblings. The test results gave context to Richard's behavior, his pointed critiques, like calling her finance career glorified gambling or suggesting her promotions were due to quotas, weren't just paternal tough love but a reflection of a deeper rejection rooted in biology. She wondered if her mother knew, if Caroline's quiet deference to Richard hid her own guilt or complicity in this unspoken truth. Keeping the results secret was a burden, but it also empowered Eliza. The knowledge gave her a lens to reframe decades of feeling inadequate, shifting the blame from her own perceived shortcomings to Richard's inability to accept her as his own. It explained why her desperate attempts to win his approval culminating in the extravagant purchase of a Mercedes S-Class for Father's Day had always fallen flat. As she prepared for the reunion, the envelope in her purse felt heavier with each passing day, a silent reminder of the truth that could either shatter the family facade or liberate her from a lifetime of seeking validation from a man who, genetically and emotionally, could never fully claim her as his daughter. The annual Matthews family reunion, held on the last weekend of June at the family's sprawling Boston estate, was a stage for Richard Matthews to showcase his success and legacy. This year, the event doubled as a Father's Day celebration, amplifying the pressure on Eliza Matthews, who had gifted her father a luxurious Mercedes S-Class in a desperate bid for his approval. However, the reunion became the setting for a devastating confrontation that exposed the fault lines in their relationship. As guests, including extended family and Richard's business associates, gathered, Eliza arrived with a mix of hope and dread. The DNA test results confirming she was not Richard's biological daughter tucked in her purse, a silent weight she hadn't yet decided to reveal. Richard's behavior at the reunion crystallized his disregard for Eliza's efforts. He had strategically positioned the Mercedes near the front entrance, ensuring arriving guests couldn't miss its gleaming presence. Throughout the afternoon, he led multiple groups of his business associates on tours of the car, animatedly pointing out its premium features and settling into the driver's seat to demonstrate its luxury. Yet, in a painful slight, he never acknowledged Eliza's role in gifting it. When her brother James commented on the car, asking when Richard decided to upgrade, Richard clapped him on the shoulder and replied, "Sometimes you need to treat yourself, son." Success has its privileges, erasing Eliza's contribution entirely. This public omission stung, reinforcing the familiar pattern of her achievements being minimized or ignored. The tension escalated during the formal dinner, where the family and guests gathered around an imposing mahogany table, its elaborate settings reflecting the Matthews curated image. Richard, seated at the head, commanded the room with practiced charm. As the meal progressed through 5 courses, he directed conversations toward his preferred topics: real estate, local politics, and James's athletic past, while lobbing pointed questions at Eliza designed to undermine her. He suggested her firm's domestic focus was limiting and implied her promotion stemmed from fortunate timing rather than merit, dismissing her correction that her risk assessment model had been adopted company-wide. Each remark was a calculated jab, reframing her successes as inadequate or dependent on family connections she had deliberately avoided. The climax came during Richard's traditional post-dinner speech, a moment when he typically basked in his patriarchal role. Standing with a brandy snifter in hand, he spoke of the Matthews family as a business enterprise built on vision and collective success. He praised James for his business acumen, highlighting his transformative real estate projects, and lauded Sophia for her grace and community leadership, noting her work with the Children's Hospital Board. His gaze then landed on Eliza, and with a theatrical pause, he declared, "I'm proud of all my children," raising his glass before adding, "except for the loser sitting at the table." The words sliced through the room, followed by a shocked silence and uneasy laughter from guests who assumed it was a jest. Richard continued, asserting that some people chase superficial titles and salaries lacking substance, clearly targeting Eliza while implying her achievements didn't align with the family's tradition of building tangible legacies. The public humiliation, delivered with precision cruelty, was the breaking point for Eliza. The sting of being called a loser before family and strangers, coupled with Richard's refusal to acknowledge her gift or her career milestones, crystallized a lifetime of rejection. Her face burned, her throat constricted, and her heart raced as she processed the moment. Every eye at the table fixed on her with a mix of pity and curiosity. The DNA test in her purse, confirming Richard was not her biological father, pulsed with potential energy. No longer willing to endure the familiar cycle of dismissal, Eliza felt a shift within her, a resolve to confront the man who had systematically diminished her worth. This moment of public evisceration, disguised as paternal commentary, propelled her to stand and challenge the narrative that had confined her for 32 years, setting the stage for a dramatic reckoning. The Matthews family reunion dinner had reached a breaking point for Eliza Matthews. After years of enduring her father Richard's relentless criticism and dismissal of her achievements, his public declaration during his speech calling her the loser among his children while praising her siblings James and Sophia ignited a fire within her. The sting of humiliation, delivered before family and business associates, was compounded by Richard's refusal to acknowledge the Mercedes S-Class she had gifted him, a desperate attempt to earn his approval. The DNA test results in her purse, confirming Richard was not her biological father, had been a closely guarded secret, a nuclear option she had hesitated to deploy. But in that moment, with every eye on her, Eliza realized that continuing to seek validation from a man, incapable of giving it, was a form of self-destruction she could no longer sustain. As Richard concluded his speech with hollow platitudes about family unity, Eliza felt a profound shift. The weight of the envelope transformed from a burden into a key to liberation, a means to break free from decades of striving for unattainable approval. With a calm that surprised even herself, she stood, her movement deliberate and commanding, halting conversations mid-sentence. The room fell silent, guests exchanging glances ranging from curiosity to apprehension, sensing a departure from the usual Matthews family script. Eliza smoothed her navy blue dress, her hands steady despite the emotional storm within, and addressed her father directly, her voice clear and professional, honed from years in high-stakes boardrooms. "Thank you, Father, for that illuminating speech," she began, her tone laced with controlled irony. "I've spent 32 years trying to earn approval that was never going to be granted, measuring myself against standards that shifted whenever I came close to meeting them. Today, I finally understand why." The room stilled further, her mother Caroline's face paling with alarm, while Richard's expression darkened, sensing a challenge to his carefully curated narrative. Eliza continued, her gaze sweeping the table to acknowledge the relatives who had witnessed her lifelong struggle. "I graduated top of my class from Cornell, built a career without family connections, and became the youngest senior investment strategist in my firm's history. Hardly the definition of a loser." Her words carried a quiet authority, dismantling Richard's public attack. Reaching into her purse, Eliza withdrew the sealed envelope containing the paternity test results. "I bought you a car worth more than most people earn in a year," she said, locking eyes with Richard, whose face hardened into the cold mask he wore in contentious business dealings. "Not because you needed it, but because I hoped it would bridge the gap between us. I've blamed myself for your inability to show me the affection you give James and Sophia, never understanding that the problem wasn't my actions, but my DNA." A collective gasp rippled through the table as she placed the envelope in its center, her movements precise. "For you, Dad, Happy Father's Day," she declared, infusing the title with biting irony. Without waiting for a response, Eliza turned and walked from the dining room, her pace unhurried, her posture radiating dignity. The shocked silence held until she reached the foyer, where overlapping questions erupted into a chaotic hum. Outside, the cool June evening air met her flushed skin as she approached the Mercedes, still parked prominently for Richard's display. With the spare key fob she had kept, she unlocked the car, its gentle chirp a stark contrast to the emotional upheaval. Sliding into the driver's seat, the new car smell mingled with traces of Richard's cologne, a fleeting reminder of his brief possession. Through the windshield, she saw silhouettes at the dining room windows, gesturing wildly as the family drama unfolded. As she reversed down the driveway, Eliza glimpsed Richard in the doorway, clutching the opened envelope, his mouth open in what might have been her name, lost to the engine's rumble. Driving away, she reclaimed not just the car but her self-worth, severing the emotional chains of seeking approval from a man who had never truly claimed her. The act marked a definitive break, a rejection of the Matthews family narrative that had diminished her for 32 years, and the beginning of a journey toward a life defined by her own terms. Aria Thompson's dramatic exit from the Matthews family reunion, after publicly revealing DNA test results proving Richard Matthews was not her biological father, unleashed chaos within the family. As she drove away in the Mercedes S-Class she had gifted Richard a symbolic reclamation of her self-worth, the carefully constructed facade of the Matthews family crumbled. The dining room, moments ago a stage for Richard's patriarchal performance, erupted into a cacophony of shocked questions and overlapping conversations. Eliza's revelation, delivered with calm precision by placing the paternity test envelope on the table, had shattered the family's polished narrative, exposing a truth Richard had likely concealed for decades. The fallout, unfolding in real time, revealed the fractured dynamics among family members, each reacting in ways that reflected their roles within the Matthews hierarchy. In the immediate aftermath, Richard opened the envelope in front of the stunned guests, his face contorting as he read the results. After a tense 10-minute retreat to his study with Eliza's mother, Carolyn, he emerged, searching frantically for Eliza, only to discover the Mercedes gone. His composure shattered, he stormed outside, shouting into the night, a display of raw emotion unprecedented for the controlled patriarch. Carolyn, meanwhile, locked herself in their bedroom, refusing to speak, her pale expression betraying the weight of a long-buried secret. The guests, including Richard's business associates and extended family, quickly dispersed, leaving the family to grapple with the wreckage. Sophia, Eliza's younger sister, later described the scene to Eliza as complete meltdown, noting she had never seen their father so unmoored. Caroline's response came through a series of voicemails and texts, evolving from composed pleas to emotional desperation. Her first message urged Eliza to call home, but by the fifth, her voice cracked as she insisted, "The test can't be right. There must be some mistake. Please come back so we can discuss this as a family." In a private meeting the next day at a quiet Boston cafe, Carolyn confirmed the truth. Eliza was the daughter of Thomas Keller, a man she had loved in college before her parents forced her to end the relationship. Pregnant and pressured into an appropriate marriage with Richard, Carolyn accepted his offer to raise Eliza as his own, a promise he struggled to keep. This revelation explained Richard's coldness, as Eliza's features, Thomas's eyes, and questioning nature served as a constant reminder of Caroline's past. James, the favorite eldest sibling, reacted with predictable loyalty to Richard, sending two curt texts demanding Eliza return Dad's property immediately and retract your disgusting accusations. His threat of legal action over the Mercedes underscored his alignment with their father's worldview, prioritizing the family's image and Richard's authority over Eliza's truth. James's response reflected his role as the golden child, unwilling to question the hierarchy that elevated him while diminishing Eliza. His silence beyond these messages signaled a refusal to engage with the deeper implications of her revelation, choosing instead to protect the status quo. Sophia, in contrast, offered unwavering support, her calls and texts radiating concern and empathy. From a hushed call within the chaotic Matthews estate, she asked, "Are you okay? Where are you?" And later confirmed the test's reality, gently probing, "Is it true? The test results, are they real?" Her emotional intelligence shone through as she acknowledged the unfair treatment Elisa had endured, admitting, "Dad's been controlling the narrative our entire lives." Sophia's affirmation, "I love you exactly the same. This changes nothing between us," provided a lifeline, reinforcing a bond untainted by the biological divide. Her daily calls in the following weeks deepened their relationship, offering Eliza a rare sense of familial validation. Richard's response came 6 days later through his attorney, a formal letter demanding the return of the Mercedes and threatening legal action for defamatory statements regarding the paternity test. The cold, legalistic tone contrasted sharply with the emotional weight of Eliza's revelation, underscoring Richard's inability to confront the truth directly. His attempt to reframe the DNA evidence as slander revealed his desperation to maintain control over the family narrative. These varied reactions, Caroline's anguished honesty, James's defensive hostility, Sophia's compassionate support, and Richard's legal posturing painted a vivid picture of a family unraveling, each member grappling with the truth that challenged their roles and relationships in profoundly different ways. Aria Thompson's dramatic exit from the Matthews family reunion, where she revealed DNA test results proving Richard Matthews was not her biological father, marked the beginning of a transformative journey. The public confrontation shattered the family's facade, but it also set Eliza on a path to heal from a lifetime of seeking approval from a man incapable of giving it. Over the following months, she rebuilt her sense of self and redefined family through honest connections, professional validation, and a cautious relationship with her biological father, Thomas Keller. This journey, though complex and bittersweet, shifted her focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. The morning after the reunion, Eliza met her mother, Carolyn, at a small Boston cafe far from the family's usual haunts. Caroline's appearance, vulnerable, stripped of the polished Matthews matriarch facade, revealed a woman grappling with decades of buried truths. Over coffee, she shared the story of Thomas Keller, a brilliant MIT engineering student she loved during her junior year at Wellesley. Their relationship, deemed unsuitable by her parents, ended under pressure, and Carolyn discovered her pregnancy only after meeting Richard, who offered marriage to secure her family's social standing and his business ambitions. "He promised to raise you as his own," Caroline explained, her voice trembling. "But you had Thomas's eyes, his questioning nature. Every time he looked at you, he saw another man's child." This revelation clarified Richard's coldness, casting him as both a victim of his limitations and a perpetrator of emotional neglect. Aria outreach to Thomas Keller, identified through public records, opened a new chapter. His cautious but kind email response expressed shock at learning of a daughter he never knew existed, proposing a meeting in Manhattan where he'd be for a conference. Their first encounter at a quiet restaurant near Central Park was both unsettling and comforting. Seeing her own mannerisms mirrored in Thomas, a man who shared her analytical mind and passion for patterns, offered a sense of belonging absent in the Matthews household. "You have my mother's analytical mind, but that spark when you talk about market patterns, that's from my side," he noted over dessert. Their relationship developed slowly, rooted in mutual respect and shared intellectual interests, unburdened by the expectations that defined her dynamic with Richard. Weekly therapy sessions became a cornerstone of Eliza's healing, helping her untangle the web of conditional love and performance anxiety that had driven her achievements. She confronted the pain of chasing Richard's approval, recognizing that her successes, graduating top of her class, building a career at Goldman Sachs, and becoming its youngest senior investment strategist, were often fueled by a need to prove her worth. Therapy illuminated a critical truth. Her value existed independently of Richard's validation, anchored in her abilities and character. This realization freed her to celebrate her accomplishments for their intrinsic worth, not as tools to win a father's love. Her relationships with Carolyn and Sophia evolved into authentic connections, unmarred by the Matthews family theater. Carolyn, shedding her performative perfection, engaged in honest conversations about her choices and regrets. "I failed you by pretending the truth didn't matter," she admitted, her raw grief forging a new bond with Eliza. Sophia's daily calls offered unwavering support, deepening their sisterly connection. "He's been controlling the narrative our entire lives," Sophia observed, acknowledging the unfair system that favored her while hurting Eliza. Her apology for not standing up more validated Eliza's experience, healing wounds more powerfully than any test result could. By Thanksgiving, hosted at Sophia's home instead of the traditional Matthews estate, Eliza's concept of family had transformed. Richard's absence, due to his refusal to attend if Eliza was present, evoked pity rather than pain, his limitations now clear. Caroline's call that evening saying, "I'm proud of you, Eliza, for who you are, not what you've achieved," landed with healing force, free of conditions. This journey taught Eliza that family transcends genetics, encompassing those who see and love her authentically. Selling the Mercedes and investing the funds in her future symbolized her shift from seeking approval to building a life rooted in self-acceptance, nourished by relationships that uplifted rather than depleted her. Aria Thompson's journey, sparked by the dramatic revelation at the Matthews family reunion, culminated in a profound redefinition of her life and values. After publicly confronting her father, Richard, with DNA evidence proving he was not her biological father, Eliza reclaimed the Mercedes S-Class she'd gifted him, a symbol of her futile quest for his approval. This act of driving away marked not just a physical departure, but a decisive break from the emotional servitude that had defined her for 32 years. In the months that followed, she sold the car, redirecting the substantial funds into her own future, a powerful metaphor for investing in herself rather than squandering resources on unreciprocated validation. This choice set the stage for a life centered on relationships and pursuits that nourished her spirit, free from the weight of Richard's impossible standards. The sale of the Mercedes was more than a financial decision. It represented Eliza's liberation from a lifelong pattern of seeking approval from a man who could never offer it. The funds, once spent on a desperate gesture to win Richard's pride, were now channeled into her personal growth, her Manhattan apartment, her career, and her emotional well-being. This shift mirrored her broader realization: her worth did not hinge on Richard's acknowledgement or the Matthews family name. Through therapy, Eliza unraveled the performance anxiety that had driven her achievements, from graduating top of her class at Cornell to becoming Goldman Sachs' youngest senior investment strategist. She began to celebrate her successes for their intrinsic value, not as tools to prove herself. Her professional reputation, reinforced by colleagues requesting her expertise, further anchored her sense of self-worth independent of familial validation. Aria's redefinition of family became the heart of her transformation. The DNA test, initially a source of pain, ultimately freed her to seek connections based on genuine love and mutual respect rather than blood ties. Her relationship with her mother, Caroline, evolved into one of raw honesty, as they confronted the truth about Eliza's biological father, Thomas Keller, and Caroline's past choices. Sophia, her sister, became a steadfast ally, offering daily support and affirming, "I love you exactly the same." Their bond deepened through candid conversations about the family's toxic dynamics, with Sophia acknowledging the unfair hierarchy that favored her and James while marginalizing Eliza. These relationships, grounded in authenticity, contrasted sharply with Richard's conditional affection, revealing that family is defined by those who see and value you without demanding performance. Her cautious connection with Thomas Keller, her biological father, further enriched this new understanding. Their meetings, beginning with a coffee in Manhattan, revealed shared traits, analytical minds, a spark for patterns that offered Eliza a sense of belonging absent in the Matthews household. This relationship, built on mutual respect rather than obligation, underscored that family transcends genetics, encompassing those who honor your authentic self. By Thanksgiving, hosted at Sophia's home without Richard's presence, Eliza felt a lightness she described as not quite happiness but a complex freedom. Caroline's words that evening, "I'm proud of you, Eliza, for who you are," landed with healing force, validating her not for achievements but for her resilience and authenticity. Aria's story carries a universal message. Self-worth does not depend on others' validation, especially from those incapable of offering unconditional love. Her journey encouraged a reflection on standing up for one's value, even when it means walking away from toxic relationships. By selling the Mercedes and investing in her future, Eliza reclaimed her emotional energy, redirecting it toward work driven by passion and relationships that uplifted her. She urges others to create their own chosen family from those who genuinely love and respect them, emphasizing that true belonging comes from mutual recognition, not blood ties. Her experience resonates as a call to action, to reject narratives that diminish you and to build a life measured by internal fulfillment. For Eliza, taking back her power meant leaving behind those who never deserved it, a lesson she hopes inspires others to embrace their worth and forge connections that nurture their authentic selves. Aria Thompson's story is a profound exploration of self-discovery, resilience, and the redefinition of family, offering timeless lessons for anyone navigating the complexities of identity and belonging. Her journey from a woman tethered to her father's unattainable approval to one who claims her own worth reveals universal truths about self-worth, relationships, and the courage required to break free from toxic dynamics. Through her confrontation at the Matthews family reunion, her reconnection with her mother and sister, and her cautious bond with her biological father, Eliza uncovers insights that resonate deeply. encouraging reflection on how we define value, family, and personal fulfillment. At the heart of Eliza's story lies the realization that self-worth must originate from within, not from the validation of others, especially those incapable of offering it. For decades, Eliza chased the approval of her father, Richard, a man whose relentless criticism overshadowed her remarkable achievements. Despite graduating at the top of her high school class, securing a full scholarship to Cornell, and becoming the youngest senior investment strategist at Goldman Sachs, Richard dismissed her successes as inadequate or derivative. His refusal to acknowledge her accomplishments, such as her innovative risk assessment model or her purchase of a luxurious Mercedes S-Class as a Father's Day gift, left her feeling perpetually insufficient. Through therapy and self-reflection, Eliza came to understand that her value was not contingent on Richard's praise. Her achievements, built through grit and independence, were testaments to her own strength, teaching that true worth is rooted in one's actions and character, not in external affirmation. Another powerful lesson is that family transcends biological ties, defined instead by those who offer unconditional love and respect. The DNA test revealing Richard was not her biological father explained his coldness but also liberated Eliza to seek authentic connections. Her mother, Carolyn, initially complicit in the family's facade, became a source of healing through honest conversations about her past with Thomas Keller, Eliza's biological father. Sophia, her sister, provided unwavering support, affirming, "I love you exactly the same," and fostering a bond deepened by shared acknowledgement of the family's toxic dynamics. Meeting Thomas, whose respect for her professional identity contrasted sharply with Richard's dismissal, offered a new sense of belonging. These relationships redefined family for Eliza, emphasizing that it is built on mutual recognition and care, not genetics or obligation. Confronting painful truths, though daunting, can be a catalyst for liberation. Eliza's decision to reveal the DNA test results at the reunion, placing the envelope before Richard and exposing his lifelong rejection, was a bold act of reclaiming her narrative. This truth, though shattering the family's polished image, freed her from the cycle of self-blame and striving for unattainable approval. It taught that facing reality, even when it disrupts established dynamics, can unlock a path to healing and self-acceptance, allowing one to move forward unburdened by false expectations. Walking away from toxic relationships is a profound act of self-love, as Eliza demonstrated by reclaiming the Mercedes and leaving the reunion. This symbolic act marked her rejection of a dynamic that diminished her, prioritizing her mental and emotional well-being over familial duty. It underscores the importance of setting boundaries, even with those closest to us, when their actions consistently undermine our worth. Healing requires vulnerability, honesty, and support from those who see us clearly. Through therapy, Eliza unraveled the performance anxiety that drove her achievements, learning to value them for their intrinsic merit. Caroline's admission of her past mistakes and Sophia's consistent empathy provided a foundation for rebuilding trust. These connections, nurtured through open dialogue, highlight that healing is a collaborative process, strengthened by those who validate our experiences. Investing in oneself emotionally, financially, and personally yields lasting fulfillment. By selling the Mercedes and redirecting the funds to her future, Arya shifted from seeking external approval to nurturing her own growth. This act mirrored her broader journey of channeling energy into passions and relationships that uplifted her, teaching that true success lies in living authentically. Finally, standing up for one's worth requires courage but is profoundly empowering. Eliza's public confrontation with Richard, though risky, was a declaration of her value, inspiring others to challenge narratives that diminish them. Her story is a call to reject toxic expectations, embrace self-acceptance, and build a chosen family of those who truly see and love us. It reminds us that sometimes reclaiming power means walking away from those who never deserved it, forging a life defined by internal fulfillment and authentic connections.